In the midst of rising prices and uncertain economic future, the no-buy lifestyle has gained more and more popularity. I've always been really intrigued by this topic since I've always wanted to live a more light and simple lifestyle, but I didn't really have the confidence to do a whole year of no-buy, so I wanted to try to do a 1 month no-buy challenge for the month of March. My rules are pretty simple on this. I could still buy anything related to food, so groceries, coffee, or the occasional takeout or going to restaurants. And I'm also allowing myself to buy household essentials, so like soap, toilet paper, or anything for my kittens like cat litter. There are a few main reasons why I wanted to do this. First one being that I have recently moved cities, and for anyone who has gone through the process of moving, you probably know that this is the time when you realize you have too much stuff. When I was packing up all my stuff and then relocating them and then finding them a new home, reorganizing them here, I'm just like, why do I have so much stuff that I need to spend so much time taking care of them? Do I really need this stuff? I mean, a lot of the stuff honestly looks a bit crappy. So the last thing I wanted to do was buy more stuff. Second reason why I'm doing this is I've always wanted to live a more simple lifestyle, and I realized I already have everything I needed. I honestly don't have any material lack, and if I'm ever in the delusion of needing anything, it's probably just an imaginary need that I've thought up. The third reason is also financial. I do have two pretty big international trips coming up this year, so I do have to save up some funds for those trips in order for them to be more comfortable and safe. Okay, so now it's been 20 days since I started the no buy. How did it go? I definitely ran into some troubles along the way. A few days into it, I got my period and I really wanted to buy these period pants because they are just a lot more convenient than just the regular tampons and pads. And then 2 days later, I had this intense desire to buy a book. I've been going to the library for most of my readings, but I came across this book that I really liked. It was super thought-provoking and I just had pages of notes written down for each chapter I read. I knew it was going to be a book that I would reread and that I would probably need to use as reference in the future, so I really wanted to buy a copy to keep it for myself. And then also, a week ago, my boyfriend and I were discussing that we should potentially buy a smaller pot. We only have one very big pot. We cook a lot, and there are just a lot of times where we would need to boil like 3 eggs or just cook something smaller that we don't really need to take out the whole big pot for. But in the end, I was able to stop myself from purchasing any of these items because I knew I was on this challenge, but also I knew that these were not things I could not live without. Yeah, they might make my life a little bit more interesting and more comfortable, but does my survival really depend on them? No. Throughout these days, I've also observed myself and learned quite a few things about consumerism and my own psychology. The first observation is that I realized all of us, have this innate desire to buy new things. Obviously, the intensity of this desire might differ from person to person, but all of us kind of have this craving for something new, something exciting, something different. I don't know where this stems from, maybe a certain level of boredom with our current lives. I just remember one day I was a little bit stressed with work and had some time on hand, and so I just habitually went online to browse at new clothes. I realized that I was doing it in the moment, but I couldn't stop and I didn't want to stop. I was like, why can't I just browse a little bit? So then I also realized for a lot of people, including myself, when I have the time and I have a disposable income, then there's really nothing stopping me from purchasing. Shopping online is just so easy and so tempting now that if we're not careful, we just end up clicking a button and making a bunch of purchases. So I think the antidote to that is we really need to be a lot more aware and conscious of our impulse to shop. And we really need to remind ourselves of all the damages overconsumption can create on our environment, our economy of inequality, as well as our mindset. Second thing I realized was how good we are at convincing ourselves that we really truly need the things we want to buy. If you really think about it, there are very few things that are actual essential survival items. Things like shelter, food, things to keep us warm, sanitation items. But beyond that small circle of essential items is a much bigger circle of things that would just upgrade and make our lives more comfortable. But as our lives get better and better, we tend to convince ourselves that more and more of these things are actually essential to our lives. And as we enrich the material goods surrounding us, as we make our lives more materially comfortable, we are actually making ourselves weaker and more empty inside. So the truth might be that we really don't need all of these items. We can live more bare-bone lives and still derive a lot of meaning, happiness, and fulfillment. Of course, I'm not blaming myself for this, and I'm also not blaming anyone else for falling into the consumer trap. I know it's a lot of influences coming from businesses, marketing, and just social expectations of what kind of lifestyle we should live. But I think all of us should definitely try to be more conscious and aware of our consumer habits. So as this month goes on, I'll try to remind myself to live a more internally focused life instead of focusing on purchasing material goods. I'll probably do another video as the month comes to a close on overall conclusions on this experience. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a peaceful rest of the day. Bye.